Howdy, folks. This is good old JR Jim Ross. I want to thank you for downloading the Ross Report, and I certainly want to thank all the sponsors. We've got some great sponsors who make this possible every single week.
Hear that? Of course not, because a dead car battery doesn't make a sound. You know who does make sound? Your daughter. And if you miss her big game, she'll make plenty of angry, high-pitched sounds. Better head to your neighborhood Advance Auto Parts. We offer free battery testing, a 3-year replacement warranty on our Platinum batteries, and free installation from one of our parts pros. Advance Auto Parts. Let's get you back on the road. Most vehicles, most locations. See store for details.
Mother's Day is May 8th. I know it sneaks up on you every year, and you panic about what you're going to get your wife, your mother-in-law, for goodness sakes, and even your own mom. And you can't forget Mama. Good news, folks. You still have time to order her the best flowers of her life from Books.com. Books flowers are simply gorgeous. Books flowers are grown at eco-friendly farms on the side of a volcano. I'm not joking about that, folks. That's really how and where they're grown. The blooms are larger, the colors are more vibrant, and that's because the soil is better. And there's a lot more sun when you're 10,000 feet up a volcano, let me tell you. Order from Books.com today. Use my promo code ROSS and get 20% off the bouquet of your choice. Believe me, everyone in your life knows second-rate flowers when they see them. So skip second rate and go for gorgeous with Books.com. At Books, prices start at a mere $40. That's right. Books prices start at a mere $40, no upcharges, no extra fees, and get this, even delivery is absolutely free when you register with Books. And if you use my promo code ROSS, you'll save an extra 20% off the bouquet of your choice. Simply go to Books.com, that's Bouqs.com, and use my promo code ROSS. That's Books.com, and use my promo code ROSS, R-O-S-S.
He's considered the greatest broadcaster in wrestling history. And now, WWE Hall of Famer Jim Ross brings his legendary voice and his famous friends to the podcast world. Welcome to the Ross Report.
Yes, indeed. It is time for some slobber knocker audio, and we've got another great guest for you here this week. Hi, everybody. I'm good old JR Jim Ross, and this week Austin Aries will join us. And I'm looking forward to talking to Austin about his very distinguished career and how he wrestles big for a smaller guy. One of the most talented in-ring performers in the business today. Austin Aries will join us here this week. And I want to thank all you guys for downloading our program every week. Those that have subscribed to iTunes for free, by the way, to the Ross Report, know that you get your show downloaded automatically every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time into the device of your choosing. So I hope more will do that. It helps us. It's free, and it's very convenient, by the way. iTunes, subscribe for free. Okay, what's on my mind? A few things on my mind this week. Busy week. I had an amazing week last week. I was in Las Vegas for several days, and I always have fun in Vegas. Well, I went to the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion at the hotel there, Gold Coast, and saw a lot of old friends. Just great, just amazing. On at that little convention they have once a year. What a great organization, Cauliflower Alley Club. Amazing organization. I really am proud that I am a lifetime member. And I say this honestly. If you're in the wrestling business or you're a major fan of wrestling and you're not a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club, then what the hell are you thinking? They help people that need help from your peer group. They may help you someday. And so joining is very affordable. Heck, being a lifetime member is doable. So it's caulifloweralleyclub.org. Check them out. And thanks. Also there at the Gold Coast, I was inducted into the NWA Hall of Fame by President Bruce Tharp and presented a phenomenal custom-made world title belt. We can say belts on my show, or strap. So I got the strap on Wednesday, custom made strap. It's really cool, the coolest thing I've seen. And great. And also Wednesday night was fun seeing Trish Stratus get the Mike Mazurki Award, the top award in the Cauliflower Alley Club. First time a female, and believe you me, baby, she's a female. That was she got the top award. I was very, very proud, like a Uncle JR or something. And saw so many old friends. And boy, there's some great broadcasters there. Lance Russell heading the list, Mean Gene Okerlund, Jerry Lawler, Pepper Martin, JBL, and of course the one and only, the inimitable Bobby the Brain Heenan. So it was fun at the Cauliflower Alley Club, and they have this function once a year. If you haven't been, you should go once. I promise you. I swear you'll have a great time. I swear you will. I had a great time on Saturday night, Knockout Night at the D in Las Vegas. That was on the CBS Sports Network from downtown Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Event Center. My thanks to Sean Wheelock and Kevin Kelly, the Flushing Flash, for their great work on the broadcast. I love the new matchmaking philosophy of the Knockout Night series. It's using and finding top young stars and prospects, feature them. And, by the way, our oldest fighter on our show on Saturday night was 28. And feature these young up-and-comers that are hot against others of the same skill set and not a tomato can. You're not going to see enhancement matches on this boxing series. So it's going to be good. So it looks like I may have found another little gig to do, and they like my work, and I'm proud of that. And hopefully we'll be doing much more boxing as the time goes on here this year and into next. There's some big plans afoot, and it sounds very, very exciting. So I'm kind of pumped up about it. I can get better at everything that I do, and I can sort of get better as a boxing broadcaster. So, but I like those challenges. And like I said before, I may die of use, but I'm damn sure not going to die of rust. And thank you, Don Henley. TNA Impact once again in the news, unfortunately, as tales of their financial woes seem to be increasing. Apparently, there's a buyer, maybe more than one, interested in investing in the beleaguered brand. I tell you this, no smart investor is going to do anything less than gain full control over the company, in my opinion. Why would you invest and put money for 49%? You haven't done really anything but put your money in jeopardy, in my opinion. So if you're going to put big money into a purchase, you need to be able to, if you're going to cook the meal, you better damn sure be able to buy the groceries. So the brand needs a restart, including a name change, in my opinion. I may be wrong. It's just my take. But if you're going to get a restart, wipe the slate clean and start over with a name. A clear-cut philosophical direction that is largely based on the current talent roster and the talents that may be available to Impact Wrestling in the immediate future. That's how you got to build your style. Well, how would you have a Japanese strong style or this or that? It depends on who you got in your lineup. You can fantasy book all the hell you want, but the reality of it is you got to have people that can execute your vision. And if they can't, then you better figure out what the best that they have and exploit that until you can get what you want. So I hope that the TNA succeeds. I truly do. But if they're unwilling to allow new eyes and a new creative approach to affect their company, then the eventual conclusion is apparently not a pleasant one for Impact Wrestling. They got to be willing to make changes. And but I'm 100% for them to be successful. But when you got to take massive decisions, crisis management, it's time. Here you are. So that's all pull for them and hope they do well. Watch their show on Pop TV and do what you can to support the brand. You can't be successful in wrestling if you can't have a viable live event business and a viable pay-per-view business. They have neither. Keyword viable, profitable. They have neither of those. So the result of how their company is going to be perceived is going to be it's a fait accompli. You can't buy all the groceries you need to buy on the international rights fees that are being paid. So And I'm sure they understand all these things I'm yelling about. But I want them to make it, but they got to be willing to change. And if the philosophy that you've been utilizing hasn't worked and to put you in this position, then one should be willing to change. And I hope they do. Ring of Honor's Global Wars pay-per-view is going to be Sunday, May 8th. That's going to be from Chicago. Colt Cabana challenging ROH World Champion Jay Lethal. Should be a hell of a main event. I think it's going to be a one badass pay-per-view in front of, a passionate crowd in Chicago. And we're going to have that for you on the Fight TV app. FITE TV app. If you got a smartphone, you can watch it on that. You got a smart tablet, you can watch it on that. You got a smart TV, you can watch it on that. All you got is Wi-Fi and the app. App's free. FITE TV app. Doing business with it, Ring of Honor. And speaking of Ring of Honor, next week I'll have Joe Koff on the program. He's the COO. More on that later. Hey, folks, it was 11 years ago this week. I'll close my thoughts with this. 11 years ago this week, it was a somewhat momentous occasion for yours truly, as it relates to my ill-fated in-ring career. And I use the term loosely when it comes to in-ring career. Thanks to the divine intervention of one large animal, Dave Bautista, your favorite Okie defeated Triple H in the main event of Monday Night Raw in front of a sold-out Madison Square Garden with blood running down my face to close out that week's flagship broadcast. Yes, indeed, I was a bloody mess. I took an awkward, by the way, seriously, I was a bloody mess. It was nasty, but boy, it was dramatic. But I took here's what happened there. Here's a story in this story. I took a real awkward bump. No jokes now, because I'm a little cow on ice out there in the ring, which is one of the reasons I never liked doing those skits, those stunts, those segments. But anyway, I took an awkward bump, and I hit my head hard on the canvas, so I'm pretty sure I was likely concussed. But the side of my head was kind of froggy, and it affected the side of my right eye. My right eye turned black all around the eyeball. So, and I still have these floaters, but that was because I was clumsy. And a lot of people want to make more about that than there is by saying, I even had that question in a Q&A at one of my shows. Did Triple H stiff you on purpose? Well, hell no, he didn't stiff me on purpose. He took great care of me. His punches were great. You could feel them, and they looked great. And he worked snug. I love that. Respect that. But my awkwardness is what screwed up my right eye vision, and these floaters still today. And when I get tired, I have a hard time reading because I can't see well out of both eyes. Anyway, but be that as it may, as the king would say, one can't grieve forever. But that was a neat night, and I get to kick out talking to the boys, about I made it in the garden, sold out, got juice, won the main event. Yeah, never seen so damn many people. They were going crazy. So. But anyway, it was fun. I'm glad those days are over, though, because I really never enjoyed doing those in-ring angles. And for the simple reasons that, first of all, it took away time from the actual wrestlers who could have used the exposure. And quite frankly and honestly, I never thought I was very good at pulling those things off. Again, think Cal on ice, JR in the ring. All right, as I said, we've got Austin Aries standing by. Should be a great show. Glad you're with us again. Thanks a lot. Before we get started, let me thank you again for supporting all the sponsors of the Ross Report. Supporting the sponsors is a great way to help keep the broadcast free to download every week, quite frankly. And if we got another great sponsor for you here this week, and that's Harry's. Have you ever wondered why razors are one of the only products in the entire drugstore that are kept under lock and key? Well, I got to think it's probably because of the price. Good razors that give you that wonderful shave are expensive. Why is it that two guys just like you and me started Harrys.com? It's because they wanted to develop something that gave you a wonderful shave. They sell high-quality blades that provide a close, comfortable shave for about half the price that you pay at the store. I love my Harry's razor. I use it at home. I don't leave home without it, I promise you. So this is what I'm using on my little world of Harrys.com. and I suggest you get the same. I'm using Harry's starter kit called the Truman. It's a real great deal. For just $15, yep, $15, you get a razor handle, the moisturizing shave cream, and 3 of Harry's 5-blade German-engineered razors. And if you use my promo code ROSSREPORT, you'll get $5 off your first purchase. So use my promo code ROSSREPORT and get $5 off at harrys.com. It's the greatest shave I've ever had in my life. That's Harry's, HARRYS.com.
Hey, all you fans of the Ross Report with Jim Ross. I know how much you guys love the Attitude Era, and that's just one reason why you should check out my new podcast, Vince Russo's The Brand, at podcast1.com. I've got new episodes dropping every weekday, from hot divas and knockouts to the WWE Attitude Era to top stars in wrestling, sports, and entertainment to the wildly popular Bucket Full of Chicken Necks and much, much more. Vince Russo's The Brand is coming to you every weekday. Go to podcast1.com now to listen live, download our easy-to-use app, or subscribe through iTunes. That's podcastone.com.
This is the Ross Report.
My guest this week, Austin Aries, and Austin is a very unique individual, ladies and gentlemen, a unique career, and he's at a very interesting crossroads, one might say, not in a bad way, in his career. Austin, thank you for taking time to be with us, and how are things going for you?
Things are going really good, JR. I really appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Are you currently under contract to WWE and the NXT group?
Yeah, I'm under contract. Signed the contract not too long ago. Officially got all the T's crossed and I's dotted, as they'd say. And, officially under contract with WWE for the NXT brand currently. And, unique thing about my contract is I still have the opportunity to take bookings outside of WWE. So that allows me some flexibility there, too.
That's good. That's smart. That's smart for them because that way they can pay you a little bit less than they would have to by allowing you to supplement your income with outside dates. Plus, it keeps you busy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So good. That's good thinking on both you guys' parts. A win-win. The way I see it, win-win. So, are you? Now I know we're talking today. You're in L.A., right?
Yeah, I've been out in L.A. for a little over a year now. Are
you going to? What's your status as it relates to being in Orlando any extended length of time?
Well, I've kicked around the idea of actually relocating back to Orlando. The Performance Center there is amazing, and it's got so many resources from, obviously the equipment, state-of-the-art equipment, but then just all the knowledge of the people walking around that facility. And, I feel for my situation that, to put myself in the PC backyard so I can take advantage of that would be advantageous for me and my career moving forward.
I think that if you have a facility like the Performance Center and you're a pro wrestler and you don't take advantage of it, you really kind of got to scratch your head and say, am I really making the best move for me in my career? Everything's right there under one roof. It's amazing.
It really is. I mean, I was down there for just a couple of weeks just to do some training, kind of look at some properties and stuff. And, when I was down there, they had Johnny Saint in there for a few days. And here all of a sudden we're training with Johnny Saint, and a guy who I watched a ton of film of early in my career, and guy's still a machine. I mean, unreal, how he moves in that ring still at his age. And but again, that's just the kind of knowledge and opportunity you're not going to have if you're not there.
That's right.
And looking where I'm at in my career and what I want to do, not just in ring, but out after my in ring days, to be around the PC, I think would be just a great opportunity for me.
Yeah, it's a win-win. I think I don't see any downside to it, quite frankly. And the other thing is, a guy can pick a worse spot to live than that Orlando area.
Absolutely.
Florida ain't bad. How hard was it to make the decision to leave TNA, where you were last, and take a shot at WWE and going through the development area of NXT? And I'm going to throw this at you. I think that it's a lot more tolerable, it's a lot more amenable to talents to do that now than it was when they were Florida Championship Wrestling over in Tampa, because that was a true developmental let's knock the rust off of you. You're a polished worker. You're an excellent worker.
I appreciate that.
Well, you are, and you're like Bálor and Joe and, my God, Nakamura and some of these other guys in there. I'm leaving names out. I don't intend to, but, Apollo, a lot of guys. They're good.
Yeah.
But you have to get in the process somehow, and that's how I look at it. What's your take on it?
I looked at it very much the same. As far as how hard or easy the decision was, it was actually a pretty easy decision for me. TNA had a very competitive offer to me, and I appreciated, how they valued me as part of their company. But I just felt for where I'm at, there wasn't much left for me to do there, and I wanted a new challenge. And really, the WWE universe is the only universe that I haven't conquered yet, so to speak. And so if that opportunity was there, I had to take it. And and as you said, the NXT brand, it's still their developmental brand, but there's workers of all different levels there. And I always felt, hey, any way you can get your foot in the door, if you believe in yourself, you believe in your passion and commitment to the business, then you take any opportunity you can get, and then you blow that door wide open.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and so if this was my opportunity, hey, yeah, I've been doing this 16 years, but I'm not naive to think that I can't still grow and learn as a performer. And so I felt here's an opportunity for me to grow and learn as a performer, get in the system, maybe help some guys who aren't, as far along in their career as I am, and really just, kind of everyone's scratching everybody's back in a good situation for everybody. So I'm excited where I'm at. I'm excited for the future and excited to be part of WWE.
The other thing, Austin, you're, 37?
37.
Yeah, so
29.
Yeah, right. But the reality of that is that you can be a real healthy, sound 37. Or you could, we both have seen guys that were beasts that are at 37. They're still going strong. So I think you made a brilliant move, because if you ever are going to find out if you can get a spot in WWE that's meaningful, you have to try this. And the second thing is that at your skill level, you just want to get ring time. Put me in the ring and tape it, because that's what you need. You need TV time so that the decision makers and everybody else that's involved in the process can see what the hell you do. So I think you're in a really good spot. I think it's going to be really good for you as time goes on, quite frankly. So we got some questions here from some of our Twitter people. I haven't vetted all these, Austin, so bear with me on these. And some of them I don't have a clue what they're talking about, so if I'm getting worked, you can tell me.
All right.
So this is from Dom at who DT40. What the Dom? You know you are, Dom. Some ninja thing here. He says, who do you look forward to working with the most in NXT or on the main roster?
Right. Well, I'm going to preface all these questions by saying I'm a hard guy when it comes to favorites, because I've never been a person who's had one favorite this or one favorite that. I always have a collection of things I like or don't like. So
how about women?
Well, there I have one favorite woman, because if I said it otherwise, she'd probably be very upset with me. So that I do have one favorite.
There you go.
Over the years, maybe I've had a collection, but for the last 5, just one favorite.
Yeah, good. Well, good, smart move.
But I guess obviously, I have a history with some of the guys that are there, and it'd be fun to revisit some of that. Whether Sami Zayn obviously just got called up. Me and Samoa Joe have had some real classic battles over the years. I've actually never really competed with Finn Bálor, so I think that right now, considering his position in NXT, I think that our skill sets match up, and I think that he's a guy that who I haven't wrestled, who I think would be fun to get in there with, and give the fans some excitement. So that's a guy off the top of my head. As far as on the main roster, I always go with Triple H, because he's the champion, right? I mean that's the best spot to be in, right? If you're going to say a dream match, so. But beyond that, I think Chris Jericho is a guy who I grew up really appreciating what he did in the ring. Again, maybe a similar skill set to mine, and he's still going strong. So that's a guy that it'd be fun to get in there with, who I haven't had the opportunity to. And then some of Seth Rollins when he comes back. We did some stuff back in the Ring of Honor days, but he's grown so much as a performer. I'm at a lot different point in my career, so that might be fun to kind of revisit and see what kind of matchup that would give us now. So I guess off the top of my head, those are just a few. I would feel like I'm missing some. If I really thought about it, I'd probably give you 10 other names.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there's just so much talent up there, and I think that's probably the excitement. I think for some of the fans is there's a lot of fresh matchups and intriguing matchups that there's an opportunity to have now that I'm part of the WWE brand.
I think there are a lot of matchups. I think it should be a booker's delight, quite frankly. And I think that it gives you guys that can work an opportunity to work with some really good talents, which I would then, for guys that are not 6'5", when you go out there and you wow people and you have a great wrestling match and you tell a great story, there's where you get noticed. Robert Courtney wants to know, Austin, what's the mentality of being a star and having to start in developmental? And by the way, he says that NXT is his favorite show from WWE. Is there a mentality thing that you got to get over from being a main event guy on a national TV show to going, as we kind of touched on earlier, going into developmental? Or was it a business, like you said, a business decision that made it a lot easier to accept?
I guess there's a part of me who looks at what they're doing with NXT, and I don't necessarily think it's this big step down that some people perceive it. I do understand that they're developing talent down there, but they're also touring around the country. They're selling out thousand seat arenas, and there's a real it's a third brand, and it's one that, as this guy alludes to, a lot of people are most excited about in some respects, or at least it has captured this kind of core. Hardcore fan base's imagination and something that they can get behind. So, I just looked at, I've always felt, and some people might think it's arrogance. I don't think it's arrogance, but I've always felt that wherever I go, I have to carry myself like I'm a main event guy and like I'm a star, and wherever I am is a place to be, so to speak. So, right now my job is to bolster the NXT brand. I do that by getting myself over as a star. I do that by helping elevate the guys that are lower on the card or younger in their careers. And if I do my job well there, then who knows what doors that opens. And then I'll take that next challenge and try to do the same thing. Yeah. So, that's just the way I look at it. I see a lot of people that have kind of made comments like that, like, well, he deserves to be here or he should be on Raw. And everyone has the right to their opinion, but I've never looked at going to NXT as a slight to my abilities whatsoever.
I agree, and I think we've established that. It's a good point, and a lot of questions from the Twitter folks kind of surrounded that topic. Here's a guy that's a top guy, he's been a champion. You're champion in Ring of Honor. You had great matches in Ring of Honor with a variety of really top guys. You worked diligently at TNA, and you ain't got to say it. I'm sure it wasn't the easiest place in the world sometimes to exist, just because of the change in philosophies and changes in talent and booking and payroll and blah blah blah. They had challenging times. So I'm not throwing them on the bus. Just you went through a lot, and you maintain. Now you're in a different place, different time. It's a business. It's a business. That's what it is. People have to understand it is a business. End of story. Yep. It is a business. Now, Brad wants to know, Brad H, by the way, Austin, just so you'll know, if you run into him straight, Brad H. He wants to know, Brad H. Brad H wants to know who influenced your career, your wrestling style.
Well, I grew up watching wrestling, Jim. I started watching wrestling probably in early 80, 82. The first stuff that really grabbed me was the Crockett era. So, not consciously, but as I've kind of looked at in my work over the years, I definitely think that you'll see some influences of the Horsemen. Just from growing up watching them, I mean, they were, and I don't have to tell you as you were around at that time, but I mean, that era for me was, to me, that's always what I think of as wrestling. That, Crockett stuff from the early 80s going to the late 80s. So I think that there's some influence a little bit in that, maybe my character or some things I do. I notice, like, man, that I go down for a backdrop just like Arn Anderson does, and I'd never thought of it consciously, but it was probably something I just picked up from watching him do it because he had a unique way of doing things. And I always think, too, like, what separates stars from other guys is the way they move in the ring. They have a certain movement or a body movement that just separates them. And I think, some of those guys, that's what they have that maybe set them apart from others. then as I got into the business, that Super Junior style, your Eddie Guerreros, your Chris Benoit's, your Chris Jericho's, Dean Malenko's, those are the guys that kind of started grabbing my attention. Jerry Lynn, who was from Minneapolis, which is where I broke in. Sean Waltman, broke in the same area too. Those were guys we kind of looked up to as being undersized guys who were making a name for themselves. So I think, those were all kind of influences to me once I started getting in the business, getting a little older and kind of appreciating the actual work rate part of wrestling. Whereas a kid, I was drawn more to the characters and just the, overall package. So I think, it's a pretty diverse set of guys that I've kind of pulled a little bit from here and from there. I think that we all do that, and we don't always realize it, but it's hard not to be influenced by guys you grew up watching or guys that you kind of feel, match your skill set and what you bring to the table.
We can all learn every day, and I think, what you're talking about, how you approach your job after being, a champion in these TNA and in Ring of Honor. Now that you are in NXT, we're talking about it is just a job, and you're going to go in there and turn heads and do your work every day. Come to work on time, and that's why I tell I had a guy tell me one time, a top guy, and he's I'm not going to tell you who it is, but here's the deal: he should be a Hall of Famer, and he probably is a Hall of Famer. Will be someday. I said, Vince and I are worried about you because you just haven't been yourself since you came back. And he said, "Oh, I'm all right. I'm good." And he, starts looking at himself, and like a lot of big guys do, muscular fellas. And I said, "No, you look great, but you're half a step off or something. Are you hurt? Because if a guy has not got his pop, he's not getting up and down as well as he usually does. It might be a health issue." He said, "No, I'm fine." He said, "When I get my push, you'll see me at my best." and this is a guy that's probably been in the business. He probably got in the business as a teenager, and he'd been in the business pretty much all his adult life.
Right.
And that was his attitude about working. I'll give you my best effort when you give me more money. And that's a prostitute's mentality. That's no way for a professional to work. And nonetheless, here's a good one. I think this guy's duping me here, Austin. He says, ask him about the Dixon-Sexon connection.
I was hoping you were going to ask me about that, Jim. The Dixon-Sexon connection.
That's from STX. He knows who it is. The FLWA. See, all this stuff is way above my pay grade, buddy. I'm an OG. I don't get it.
Combined weight of 420 pounds from Intercourse, Pennsylvania, the Piston Ted Dixon, Dan Casual Sexon, the Dixon-Sexon connection. So basically, and these guys are pretty convinced at one point they could have single-handedly saved Raw if they only got a shot.
Sure.
Which unfortunately never happened. But some people will claim it's an alter ego of mine. I will neither confirm or deny that. But the Dixon-Sexon connection was born, I guess, after a few glasses of fine liquor and some conversations about some, different names that the Piston, you actually used that name when you went out, the Piston Ted Dixon. So basically this whole tag team concept kind of popped in my head, and we did it kind of for fun. Fake mustache, leisure suits, coming out to Curtis Mayfield to get down, maybe a little bit embellishment of the male organ in said leisure suits. And, I'll be honest, it was a moment. It was all done in jest, and it was done for fun. But it taught me something about wrestling, because up to that point, I took it very seriously. Being a bit of an undersized guy, it was always important that people took me seriously. I didn't want to be pigeonholed as a scrappy underdog or a cruiserweight. I wanted to be taken, seriously as a main event type guy. So I was always very serious in my wrestling. And when I started doing this alter ego gimmick, it opened my eyes that this is also supposed to be fun. And if you're out there having fun, then the people who are watching you are having fun. And so as silly as a gimmick as it was, it really was kind of one of those turning points in my career where I said, oh, this is supposed to be fun too. It's not supposed to be serious all the time. And you can take yourself too seriously. And that sometimes can be to your detriment. So, there's a lot of fun stories and some fun matches with the Dixon-Sexon connection. Our tag team finish was the large package, which was a double small package, which, as you know, it's impossible to win a match with because you can't have two guys in there, which had always been, we thought we won, then we turn, and we'd usually turn into the finish and lose. So, it was just, it was something that's just kind of two buddies kind of shooting the breeze in the room, and and just kind of came up with this crazy idea and had a lot of fun with it for a number of years.
And if the fans liked it, you won. It's a win-win.
That's it.
Obviously, you had fun doing it, or you wouldn't have done it. You had fun,
Yep.
and if the fans bought it and they were entertained, then it's a win-win for everybody.
And going to your stories about, like, change. Remember, we actually changed one time. We were changing the janitor's closet at one of these small shows we were doing, and we saw some glass cleaner in there, and I thought to take the glass cleaner and take my wrist tape and cover up the G and the L, and we came out and we sprayed the fans with ass cleaner because it's like you need a little bit of this, Found some dance wax in there one month, and we sprinkled dance wax on our feet, and imagine when they started dancing. It was just all sorts of goofiness, but again, it showed me another side of wrestling that maybe I hadn't quite realized at that point.
I think comedy has got its place in wrestling. I'm a little old school, but in the right presentation, like it sounds like that was, it can work, and it works a lot. And some people enjoy having a good laugh at a wrestling match. It's just a matter. It's a matter of how it's presented. If you're having a Texas death match and both guys are bleeding, probably not the time to be chuckling, but at least you hope not. They're not laughing at you when that's going on.
Right.
So, Sarah, this is interesting. Sarah Brandy Peters is interested in knowing: is it harder being a vegan and a wrestler? So I assume you're a vegan.
Yeah.
If I'd known that, you'd never been. No, I'm kidding.
No. So I need some of your sauces for my tempeh and my tofu, JR. I got.
They're all my sauces are all gluten free and vegetarian friendly, unless you're splitting hairs and saying that the amount of honey mustard in my mustard violates the trust of being vegan.
Right. And I'm not, and I don't really correct people. I'm not really a hardcore vegan per se. I do follow a plant-based diet, but hey, my wrestling boots are made of leather. I don't freak out about honey, things like that. I think and we all try to find out where we fit in the spectrum of meat eater, animal user, and complete vegetarian or vegan, as it would be.
What's your primary intake, what's the sources of your primary intake of protein?
I've gone back and forth on different philosophies on protein and the actual amounts we need to maintain and to build muscle mass, because there's different things you read from different avenues will tell you different things. The majority of my protein really just comes from eating a lot of food. I do eat a lot of lentils. I do eat tofu. I do supplement sometimes with protein powders. They make plant-based protein powders, things like beans and rice. I am under the belief that the amounts of protein that we've been programmed to think that we need to build muscle has been extremely inflated by the people who, go figure, sell us all these proteins and supplements. I really think that if you get about 10 to maybe 15% of your overall caloric intake from protein a day, it's more than adequate to build muscle. If you want to build more muscle, you just increase your overall calories, not just your overall protein. But we've all been kind of drilled with certain, facts that we think are facts, whether it's from, bodybuilding.com or Muscle and Fitness. And it's not to say these methods won't work, but do we really need 2 grams of protein per body weight or 1.5 grams? I think it's debatable. So I think the most important thing for me is I focus on getting enough quality nutrients from whole plant-based foods. And even if you were to not do the plant-based part, the more whole foods and the less processed foods you get, the better. The less supplements you can use, the better. So I just really think it's about flooding the body with quality nutrients and quality food.
So when you're on the road, what would be a ideal lunch for you? You need to eat a good healthy lunch. You're not in a time crunch. What would be a good healthy lunch for you, and where would you go to procure that?
Depending on what city I'm in, usually my usual routine when I would get into a city would be to find maybe like a Whole Foods or a similar type of grocery store, and I would just kind of go stock up on certain things for the loop. But again, a lot of guys in the locker room, they carry around packets of tuna. I carry around packets of lentils. They've got whey protein. I've got veggie protein. So. The nice thing is, lentils are a great source of complex carbohydrates, a good source of protein, about a 2 or 3 to 1 carb to protein ratio. So, if I have a packet of lentils in my bag, it'd be about 45 grams of protein, And, I can add that to a salad, or, some rice or something like that and get my protein from there. But, what I'm starting to notice is there's more and more options in more and more towns and cities I go to. I can usually find a place, a grocery store that has enough things I can stock up on, whether it's some baked tofu, so I have a little extra protein source, or like I said, packets of lentils, or I like Indian food, which is usually, kind of based around lentils or garbanzo beans and things like that. So it's not as hard as some people would think once you make it a priority and you seek it out. You have to go look for it because it's not being advertised to you. It's not in 85% of the places you're going to look in a grocery store because it's not the thing that has the big money behind it. But once you actually know what you're looking for and you go seek it out, it's really not that difficult.
If you were on the road and you weren't going to a grocery store, is there a go-to that you can generally get what you need at a chain restaurant, any chain restaurants? Fridays or Applebee's or whatever. I don't, Payway. I don't know.
Not especially Chipotle. I guess is a spot that they just have the sofritas now, which is their like braised tofu. So a Chipotle would do it for me. Again, if I had to go to a Payway or something, I always have food with me. Now, I guess that's one thing I always try to be prepared because, let's be honest, even if you're a meat eater, some of your late night options to eat aren't going to be the best for you either way,
Right.
If you're having to pull into a Wendy's or something at 12, 1 in the morning, your options are limited as it is, and it's probably not the highest quality food. So, I think I would try to stay away from that stuff, regardless of being, plant-based or not. So I always try to have something with me, just to make sure that I'm always prepared. And that's a cool thing, though, like with these packets of lentils, if all the guys want to go to a Fridays or they want to go to a steakhouse, I can go with and I can order the spinach salad and, throw my lentils on that and still be out and get a good meal in me. So, and I found out I really like A1 steak sauce, not really steak. So, I'm a big fan of condiments. I think really,
Me too.
Of course you are, right? But I mean, think about it. I mean, if we really just like meat, we would just boil it in water and we'd eat it. But we don't. We spice it and we rub it and we sauce it because really that's the flavor profile. So when you find some sauces you really like or some spices you really like, and you can add that to a portobello mushroom or a piece of tempeh or tofu, you're still getting the flavor profile that's appealing. So, I'm a big fan of condiments. Obviously, you are as well, and I think that's really where I don't feel like I'm missing out because those are the flavors that I really crave.
We are working on a heart-healthy, diabetic-friendly barbecue sauce as we speak, and a fruit-based, very healthy hot sauce. So
sounds good.
Yeah, and we're looking at taking all the high fructose corn syrup out of all of our products. Mm-hmm. Everything now is gluten-free, so we're becoming more aware of that. We want to create a barbecue sauce that could be sold at Whole Foods, for example. That's healthy, and there's not a lot of that out there. Let's see here. Kenny at Kenny 586 for the record says your promos seem natural. Are promo skills something that can be taught, or something that you're born with?
I'd be curious to hear your opinion on that too, Jared, because you obviously have a lot of experience with that. I think it's a combination. I think there's some people who just you could never teach the skills, but I do think that it's something that obviously if you hear my early promos, they're nothing like my promos now because, like anything, the more you work at something, the more comfortable you come with something, the better you're going to be. So, I mean, I don't think it's either you're just born with it or it's learned. I think that it's a combination of both. I think some people can learn over time to cut convincing promos. I think some people you could, try to teach them forever and they could never spit it out. I think some people might have just been born with the gift and never had to work at it. I think it's just all individual. I think the biggest thing for promos is the more you pull from truth, the better off it's going to seem. The more it's coming from the heart and you're pulling from real experiences, what's really a part of you, the better it's going to be. And that's why I think over time my promos have become better because I don't have to make up stuff. I can pull from the reality of what Austin Aries, the character, has accomplished over 15 years. I can pull from real experiences and not have to make up too much fiction. And that helps in the process of it coming off as authentic.
Well, what you're doing then, you're not reciting memorized lines. You're using your own life experiences. You're using your own organic and animalistic feelings and instincts to address an issue with another wrestler or a title or a peer or some storyline. But you're doing it in your own vernacular, with your own words, at your own pacing, with your own rhythm. So now, as a fan, when I'm listening to you, I don't think you're BSing me. I think that you are as sincere as you can be, and I believe that. That's what one of the things that I find very interesting about Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter, is that even though I know he's cutting promos, I get it. Mm-hmm. But when he's doing it, he's so good at it that I really believe that he believes what the hell he's saying.
And that is a number one. Like, if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it. If you're not buying it, nobody else is going to buy it. And I would, I've been lucky enough, the places I've been in my career, that the people I've worked with have understood that if you give me bullet points and you tell me the important parts that need to be covered and the things absolutely I should not say, and you let me go in there and then fill in the blanks and tell the story, that's where I'm going to work best, and that's where you're going to get the most authentic promo.
Yeah.
I would hate to have to memorize lines word for word, because I'm not a great actor in that sense.
Well,
I'm not great at, and so you got to play the guy's strengths. And I think, again, the wrestling I grew up watching, nobody was writing these promos for these guys, and you either sank or you swim on how well you could sit there and talk.
You got to
how well you believed it.
You have to maintain as much legitimacy to the genre of pro wrestling that you can do, and the more that you scratch away the veneer of the legitimacy, the more it exposes a really sometimes bad entertainment product. And so you got to have legitimate promos and guys that look like athletes, and guys that you got into a fight. Hey, I think that guy can take care of himself. We're going to come back with Austin Aries momentarily, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to know is about this size thing, because WWE has broken the mold. When I was there, we tried to hire bigger guys because that's what the chairman wanted. And I tried to put the best roster I could together, and I was lucky. I put a roster together of some pretty good-sized dudes. But I was always I didn't think you had to be 6 feet tall to be a tough or a great star in wrestling. So we're going to come back with Austin Aries and talk about size and how it has affected his career, positively or negatively. But first, once again, I want to say thanks to all of you for supporting all the wonderful sponsors of the Ross Report. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you every Tuesday night. Keep it free. That's what we want to do. So thanks for supporting Diamond Dallas Page and his new DDP Yoga Now app. Dallas made it even easier for you to get started and stay committed to his DDP Yoga program. Just download the DDP Yoga Now app. The app will offer you exclusive live workouts with DDP from the DDP Yoga Performance Center. Live. It's got a nutrition guide and recipes. And you can also access DDP's live cooking shows. You can earn points through the app and redeem them for special rewards and prizes. Dally has thought of everything with this new DDP Yoga Now app. And you can get the app for iOS or Android. So get started living a healthier life, ladies and gentlemen, with DDP Yoga. You know that it works. You've seen the results. Make it easy on yourself and download the DDP Yoga Now app. And there's even more motivation for you, shall we say. If you buy DDP Yoga at the ddpyoga.com/Jim Ross, you'll get 3 free months of the DDP Yoga Now app. That's a heck of a deal. 3 free months can be yours. So go to ddpyoga.com/Jim Ross to take advantage of this special offer. That's ddpyoga.com/Jim Ross. There's something about TrueCar that a lot of people don't know, and that is using TrueCar and the TrueCar app, you can also buy a used car. There are over 500,000 pre-owned vehicles available from the TrueCar certified dealers nationwide. And there are over 11,000 of the TrueCar certified dealers in the network. Whether you're looking to buy a new or used car, you can get upfront pricing information that will empower you to determine a fair price and enjoy a quick, easy buying experience. Because trust me, it's not always quick and easy. Just go to TrueCar or download the TrueCar app, determine what kind of car you'd like to buy, use the TrueCar pricing curve to see what other people in your immediate area have paid for the essential same vehicle that you want. And then get your TrueCar savings certificate to lock in your guaranteed savings. Over 2 million cars have been sold to the TrueCar users through the TrueCar certified dealer network. And those buyers saved an average of over $3,000 off MSRP. So when you're ready to buy a new or a used car, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app to enjoy a better, faster buying experience. Some features not available in all states. You know, I've heard this all my life. Does size really matter? Sometimes it's me asking that question, just out of self-defense. Austin, you're under 6 feet tall, right?
Oh, yeah. Even in my boots.
Even in your boots. No lifts? You know, no lifts?
Unless I had 6-inch lifts, I don't think I'm stretching the over to 6 feet.
So you're under 6 feet tall. You're around 200 pounds. You're a very athletic-looking guy, and you are an athlete. There's no doubt about that. You're in great shape. So all those good things. But no matter what you do, you can be tan, you can be darker than night. You can be vascular. You can be, look, you just walked off the Arnold Classic, but you're never going to be tall. So how do you address that, and how have you had to address that over the years, knowing that, hey, look, it's a big man's business, pro wrestling is. Whether we like it or not, it is. And many of the promoters believe that it's a big man's business as well, which is even more important because they're doing the hiring. How do you deal with that, being 5'8" or 5'9"?
Well, the funny thing is when I first had the opportunity to get in professional wrestling, I mean, I was actually just in such awe that there was a ring in front of me. Because, I broke in 2000, and this was kind of before the Internet really boomed, and you couldn't just find a wrestling school. It was still a little bit protected. You had to know somebody who knew somebody. And luckily, my best friend was trained with Eddie Sharkey in Minneapolis and kind of called me out of the blue and told me he was doing this. And in disbelief, I had to go check it out, and I saw this ring, and I was just, like, in awe that I could have this opportunity to get in the ring and do this.
I want to say to everybody that Eddie Sharkey is based in Minneapolis. Eddie Sharkey is a guy that trained Bob Backlund for a while. He trained the Road Warriors. He was the outstanding junior heavyweight for Vern Gagne's promotion, the AWA, because I remember my boyhood hero, Danny Hodge, who was the NWA junior heavyweight champion, always bragged on how he enjoyed going to the AWA because he got to work occasionally with Eddie Sharkey, who he liked working with. So now tell your story, but I just want everybody to know that he's a very, very respected trainer and a very a strong citizen within the community of pro wrestling.
And boy, can he tell you a story or two, let me tell you. But yeah, when I first started training, I guess the fact that I was undersized, it just didn't register initially. I mean, obviously I knew I wasn't huge, and there were some bigger guys in the territory at the time, but I guess I never looked at it as a hindrance. I just looked at it as I was different. I had a different skill set. I could do things those guys couldn't do, just like they could do certain things I couldn't do. And to me, that was always the beauty of wrestling, was matching one guy's skill set against another guy's skill set, and how that meshes and how that gives you a different story. And so I never looked at it as something that would be held against me. Obviously then, fast forward a few years when I had some dark matches with WWE, I basically found out in a roundabout way that I wasn't big enough. And that was really the first time that concept kind of hit me. Like, oh, wow, like, I might not be big enough to get certain opportunities. But it didn't really deter me. I never tried wrestling like a small guy. I think I always kind of resisted that in some ways. I wanted to be a well-rounded wrestler. I wanted to be able to be technical on the mat. I obviously could do things, in the air and off the ropes, but I wanted to be proficient in all different styles because I wanted to see myself up and down the card. I didn't want to be stuck in a certain role. So I don't know. I try to carry myself like a small guy. I don't try to work like a small guy. But the reality is, in this industry, I am a smaller guy. And so I think the way you combat that is in all the ways I just say. You don't think of it like that. Toughness doesn't have a measuring stick. You don't measure you can't measure someone's heart or determination with the tape measure. And those are the things that I've always just kind of held on to. And I think for me, it provides a unique. Listen, if you have a bunch of guys who are all basically the same size, all basically the same weight, who all wrestle basically the same way, aren't you always all going to basically have the same match? And to me, that's boring.
I was watching Lucha Underground a few weeks ago, and they had the big heel, the owner's masked brother, the heel, came down, and I thought he was like gigantic. And I asked somebody, I said, how big's that guy? And they said, oh, he's not that big, 6'2". 6'2", really? Come on. And he said, well, yeah. You're comparing, he's surrounded by guys that are 5'5" and 5'7", 5'8".
Sure.
The smaller guys. So it's all, my point is, speaking to our case, we both agree, it's all relative. If you're really good at what you do, I mean, here's what I remember back so many times, but there's illustrations such as Tommy Billington, the Dynamite Kid, was probably 5'8". He played very well in the Land of Giants because he didn't know he was 5'8", and he didn't walk like he was 5'8", and he didn't conduct himself in the locker room or anywhere else, unfortunately at times, like he was 5'8". So he had a whole different presence. So if you have a presence and you have a high skill level, and your skill set's refined, and you know what the hell you're doing out there, there's no reason you can't be a star. And people say, oh, McMahon's never going to push anybody that's not, Well, he pushed Daniel Bryan.
Sure.
CM Punk, guy you worked with a zillion times.
Yeah.
He's not a giant. He was a huge star.
Right.
So I believe that in this era of WWE, for Austin Aries to be successful, you are at the right place at the right time as far as 5'8" or 5'9" guys go. You are here at the right time because 10 years ago, it would have been really tough to get you hired.
Yeah, it was. It was almost impossible.
Rey Mysterio got hired. Ray got hired. Yeah, I hired Ray. But he had such a resume, and he was such a unique character, being Hispanic, and us needing a Hispanic babyface. He filled the bill perfectly. He spoke great Spanish. He had great heritage. He was a folk hero in the Hispanic community, and still is. And he was so unique in the ring, with all of his lucha libre stylings. And so, but Ray was a different animal. But boy, trying to hire other guys that are smaller. And here's the irony of that thing, Austin, is that if you go back and look at the history of the Garden, some of the biggest houses drawn there, Buddy Rogers is under 6 feet tall. Yep. For example, he had success all over the world. But looking at New York territory, there were a lot of guys that went in there that were under 6 feet. That did. Bruno Sammartino, by the way, wasn't 6 feet tall.
No. Pedro Morales, believe the same.
Yeah. So it can be done. But they carried themselves like they were. Now, of course, Bruno was a big son of a gun in his heyday, as we all know. Right. But they still, it was a walk. If you see Bruno today and he walks into a restaurant, he's going to carry himself as a champion because he is. That's just his natural. That's who he is, and so it's that natural thing, man.
I mean that's the point. Wrestling, it's about larger than life personas, and you don't physically have to be larger than life to have a larger than life persona. It's all in how you said as you carry yourself. And the other thing is that wrestling is entertainment, and there's really no size requirement on being entertaining. And I think those two things are important to remember. And I know that as I get into the WWE universe and their fan base that has maybe some strong thoughts on what it takes to be a WWE superstar, I'm starting to see comments or people, making reference to my size. And I'm used to it. It doesn't really bother me. But then again, I always remember that these are people who are watching what I do for a living and not actually doing it. And it's easy to cast judgment on someone else when you're doing it from your couch.
You're better off. So, you're better off just forgetting anything they say as best you can, because number one, you can't change it. You can't change how some people's prejudices are. Sure. And the other thing is that the way you can change it is by your actions and by what you do in the ring, and I think that's important. This is an interesting question here. I don't get this. Maybe I'll get suckered in again. This is from John Owens. John Owens wants to know, Did you enjoy working with Kevin Nash in TNA?
I actually did. We did some stuff back my second time around when I was in the Austin Star character, which is another story for maybe another time. But we did some stuff called the Paparazzi Productions, the Paparazzi Championship Series, and it was a Vince Russo idea to just give some more character development to the X Division guys at the time. And we had a lot of fun doing really just a bunch of silly stuff. We had, push-up contests, and we did musical chairs. And the cool thing about it was it was very underproduced in that we did it a lot of times at the end of the day when everybody was gone, and we were allowed to just kind of, to our own devices, to kind of put this together. And, Kevin's a cool guy. He's a smart guy. He's smart to business. And, we had a lot of fun just kind of BSing around and putting that stuff together.
Big personality, good guy. Kevin's been a friend of mine for years. I'm looking here. Daniel Zamorano wants to know who from the past would be your dream opponent from the past.
Well, one guy that I really admired that I never had the opportunity or the pleasure to get in the ring with was Eddie Guerrero. I just think he was such a all-around, he could do anything. He really could. And, again, look at another guy under 6 feet tall who I looked and emulated to say, just such a professional and again, could wear any hat you needed him to. But usually my answer to this question of the all-time, who would you wrestle all-time, I always say, no matter who it is, I need Bobby Heenan as my manager. and as long as I got Bobby Heenan as my manager, I'm happy. Because to me, Bobby Heenan is probably one of my all-time favorite performers in this industry. I think in a lot of ways really underrated for what he did, and how good he was at what he did. So that's usually my answer to that question.
You have good taste. I agree 100%. I say this before. I said a lot of times about Bobby. Bobby made my life so much easier when I went to WWE, that then working with him was wonderful. But I really believe this. As far as wrestling and managing and broadcasting, in today's world, as a heel or as a worker, he would be a star in today's world because he understood crowd psychology, and he wouldn't allow the crowd to dictate how fast or how slow he wrestled. He was going to tell a good story. And who talked better than him? I don't know. I don't know anybody that's better. Who was a better manager than him? There have been great managers. Cornette, Heyman, Gary Hart, J.J. Dillon, on and on. Sure. Humperdinck, a lot of guys. Good managers, tons of them. But not anymore. There's one that gets any stretch. That's Paul Heyman.
Right.
He's the advocate, but come on, it's a manager. But he was excellent. Bobby was. So you get good taste there in that deal.
Yeah, I think that, and the point you made is that a lot of people don't realize is he was really great in the ring. Prior to his managing days, and the thing about Bobby is he could have stolen the spotlight at any moment from almost every guy he ever managed, and he never did. And he made a lot of guys a lot of money during those Hogan years because really, in my opinion, it wasn't Hogan versus any certain guy. It was Hogan versus Heenan, whoever was in Heenan's stable for a number of years. And Bobby just could elevate guys and make you care about them and yet not steal their spotlight. And he could have because he was that talented. But he was just tremendous all around.
Yeah, he's a classic. He's the best all-around guy I ever worked with, period. I mean, I worked with a lot of really, really good guys. But nobody could do more things great than Bobby, period, end of the day. So Thomas Trainer wanted to know who you thought was the greatest manager of all times. I think we just answered that, didn't we?
I think we did.
Bobby Heenan. So Bobby's would be my answer too. I love him. I do. Who were some of the guys you trained? This is from Blood Type Online. That's clever. Who are some of the guys you trained as the head of the Ring of Honor school?
Well, the one guy that's kind of stuck through it is Rhett Titus. He's still going and doing his stuff now in Ring of Honor. I think he's back teaming with Kenny King, doing the All Night Express. Nice tag team name that I coined, kind of going off the old Midnight Express. A couple other guys, Grizzly Redwood, who I thought really, felt like an undersized guy. Here was a guy who was probably about 5'3", 5'4", had a hell of a story. As born extremely premature, was told he wouldn't. His mom was told he wouldn't see, he wouldn't hear. His organs were so underdeveloped, and just one of the most tenacious guys I had a chance to train. And, his only, and I'll tell this to him if he was sitting here, and he knows this because I told him, is that if he believed in himself as much as I believed in him, I really thought he could have been a money player for WWE from the standpoint of being such an inspirational story, kind of being, I want to say, novelty small to where he would have fit a certain niche. And it could have been a guy that they could have used to send around to children's hospitals and just be an inspirational story. But, as you know, in this industry, it's a marathon, and it's all about right place, right time. You got to kind of keep yourself at the game. But I think the world of him. And there's a lot of other guys that kind of came and went. There weren't too many notable guys that stuck with it. The one thing I've always instilled, whether it was at the Ring of Honor school or the times that I trained up in Minneapolis and trained guys, is I always told my trainees, I don't care, if you're going to be a weekend warrior and that's the level you want to take it to, or if you want to be in WrestleMania, when you walk in the locker room, you handle yourself with respect and professionalism. And because to me that was a reflection of me and how they were trained. And I'm happy to say that over the years that my guys that have gone on to the things they've done, whether it's low levels or high levels, one thing I can always say is that they've conducted themselves in the locker room appropriately.
You were from Milwaukee. We're talking about guys under 6 feet. Crusher, most famous wrestler ever from Milwaukee, the Crusher, and he was. I don't think Crusher was over 6 feet.
I think he was about 6 feet wide, though.
Yeah, great shoulders, great. Thick.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he looked very intimidating, and rightfully so. What do you think? You know Phil Brooks very well. You know him better than I probably. I like him a lot, and I don't talk with him anymore, just because I think he's kind of shut off many of the people from the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. I think we can all be a distraction, because somehow, some way, invariably, it comes back around to the business to some degree when you're catching up with somebody on the phone or whatever. What's your thoughts of him? Not as we both know he's a great in-ring performer and he's got a great mind, but as where is he mentally? I'm just trying to figure out what triggered or what was the burning bush of getting him from pro wrestling into MMA. What do you think really turned that? Was that something he'd been thinking about for years and years, or do you know what? I'm trying to figure it out here.
Yeah, I mean, me and Punk were never that close outside of wrestling. But I know he's been a fan of mixed martial arts for a long, long time. I mean, I remember going, by his place back in our early Ring of Honor days, just to hang out a couple times, and he had a lot of books on jiu-jitsu and things like that. So I think it's something he's always had interest in. And what I do know about Punk is that he's always marched to the beat of his own drum, and he always likes a challenge, and he wants to do things that people say he can't do. So I think when you put those things together, probably let him know where he's at. And he's got an uphill battle. I mean, he's not getting in the game at a young age. He's not a particularly high-level athlete, but he is a smart guy. And so if anyone's going to find a way to succeed, I imagine he will.
I'm anxious to see him fight when he gets healthy. Good training camp behind him. I think it will be a boost to a USC pay-per-view when he makes his debut, because the curiosity factor is going to be tremendous.
Absolutely.
Paulie Culver is in Las Vegas. I know that. He asked, which company has the most competitive locker room behind the scenes that you've worked for? I'm assuming he's probably talking about the major Ring of Honor, TNA, WWE. You haven't been in WWE. Sure. I don't know how long you've been there to judge their locker room, but who is the most competitive that you've experienced? I don't think that's a bad thing, by the way, competitiveness.
No, and I think there's different types of competitiveness. I think the original concept of Ring of Honor was basically everybody go out and try to steal the show, and the cream will rise to the top. And that in and of itself, that initial concept that it was born out of, created a very competitive locker room, because everyone wanted to make their way up the card, and the way to do that, you had such a laundry list of talented guys at that time. If you look back at the heyday of Ring of Honor and the talent that was going through there at that time, you had to be on your A game if you wanted to stand out. But fast forward, I think that I haven't been in NXT very long, but I think that there's a competitiveness there that you can't help but be competitive there, because everyone is trying to get that call up, everyone's trying to ascend up the ladder. So it's going to breed competitiveness in that nature. But one thing I've also noticed there is that there's also a camaraderie there that I feel is unique and helps create an environment where, while we're all competing with one another, we're also trying to boost everybody up. Because, a lot of those guys and girls have been down there for a long time helping build that place and build that brand. And I've seen it change over from maybe FCW into NXT. And there's a sense of pride in doing that. So it's a very competitive environment, but I think it's also there's a cohesiveness there that helps that brand as well.
I think camaraderie is good. I think respect is imperative. But I think management and talents to motivate each other to be the best they can be. You only get to be the best you can be when you're being pushed. You can't. Anybody that finds that dreaded comfort zone, man, whether you're training, you're in a relationship, your job, whatever, that's a poisonous place to be. It's just toxic.
And you're only as good as the men and the women you have to work with in this industry. So you should want everyone to be the best they can be, because it's only going to make yourself better in the end.
It makes you look better. It's cooperative effort here. Here's what I always hated: these guys the ones that can do a few spots are pretty decent little workers, and they go out and they have a lousy match with somebody that's not their skill set. I did everything I needed to do. Yeah, you got all your stuff in. It didn't fit, but you got it in. I got my shit in. Yeah, that's what exactly. It smelled like it. It's horrible. So it's just a matter of, the great workers, the good workers are supposed to figure out what they can do to facilitate a good match based on their dancing partner. And the experienced, the more experienced guy has got to take the lead on that, or the guy that's just out and out better. So that's the bottom line of that deal, as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to ask you. Here's a good one. I wanted to ask about this myself. Adam Bartolo. He'd like to know the story behind the 90-minute match versus Daniel Bryan at the Ring of Honor Testing the Limit. That was. I'm assuming that was a pay-per-view.
No, this was before pay-per-view. This was, I want to say, in 2004. Actually, it was really, I was just kind of brand new to the company. It was actually only 76 minutes, not 90. Still a long time to be in there. So the funny story behind it, Brian's an amazing guy. I don't have to tell anybody that, but he's also always just kind of, again, always thinking outside the box and always wanting to challenge himself. And I was still kind of cutting my teeth there and kind of build my reputation. And so I got to the venue that day, and one of the other wrestlers said, "Hey man, have you talked to Brian? He's got this crazy idea. You guys are doing 2 out of 3 falls, and he wants to do 2 1-hour draws and then have the last fall at 59 minutes." So I was like, I just kind of laughed because I thought, okay, he's probably pulling my leg. And then I met up with Brian up in the hotel room. He's like, "So I got this crazy idea." I was like, "No way." So he told it to me. I was like, "Listen," I was like, "if this is what you want to do," I said, "I'm there with you." I said, if that's what you want to go do, like, I'm there. You're, and at that point, like, you're the veteran, you lead, I'll follow, and so we obviously fell a little short of the, 2 hour and 59-minute match that maybe was, in the back of the head, but at the time, it was a challenge for me to go in there with a guy who was at a high level, who had wrestled, a lot of places I hadn't wrestled with guys that I hadn't at that point, and to go in there and hang and show that, I belonged at that same level, and so it was an accomplishment. And again, he's amazing in every facet when it comes to the business. And, after the match, funny little story is, after the match, I kind of walked the curtain and, I'm kind of feeling good about myself. I felt we went out there, we worked really hard and kept the fans entertained for the majority of that 76 minutes, and kind of excited to come back and get a little feedback from my colleagues, and walk through the curtain, and there's not one person in the back. I imagine about the 45-minute mark, they said, "All right, we've seen enough," and they all went to the bar.
Yeah, be
and
traffic.
Had a good buzz on at the bar, and so.
Yeah, thanks to you guys, they got out of their parking spot, they got out of the arena without any trouble, and they were sitting at the bar when you guys were probably still showering.
Absolutely.
So,
but no, it was a great accomplishment and feather in the cap at that point in my career.
What's your thoughts on his future? Will he be? Here's what I tell people now, and I'm not trying to affect you, and I should probably say this because I don't want to affect your answer. I tell people that I believe that no matter what he does, he's going to be happy and he's going to be successful.
And that's basically my answer. I've known Brian, long enough, and again, we're not super close outside of the wrestling world, but I know enough about him that anything he wants to do, he will accomplish, and he's got such a unique outlook on life that, he's always happy. He doesn't take, things for granted. He doesn't let the fame and those types of things. That's not what drives that guy. And anything he wants to do in life, he'll tackle it and he'll be successful. Just a really, really unique person, and just a great all-around guy.
Good guy. The business needs more Daniel Bryants or Brian Danielsons, without question. I've always thought that if he wants to stay in WWE, and I think there may be some question about that, but be that as it may, yay or nay on that deal. It's none of my business. It's his deal with WWE. But I think that if they mutually want to do business together, there's a lot of things he can do really well that will help that company grow in the future. Because who better to have in a performance center in some role than Daniel Bryan? I don't know who you could get, because he's overcome that stigma of being too small. He's headlined WrestleMania. He's been the WWE champion, for God's sakes. So I'd love to. Plus, he's got great character and integrity. Rahul here, I think I cleared my throat. Rahul wants to know if you trained at Rufus Sport.
I wouldn't even call it train. I went in there a couple days, and I had a friend of mine who trains out here in L.A. at Rufus Sport, and just went there a couple days, kicked some bags, did some conditioning. I'm a very casual MMA fan, but anything I can do to kind of change up my conditioning and my drills, I take that challenge. And I like to go and kick bags and do some stuff, scrap a little bit on the mat, but no way, shape, or form do I consider myself trained in MMA. You see some guys that buy an Affliction shirt, and next thing you know, they're an MMA fighter. I'm not going to be claimed to be that guy, but I do like to get in there and test myself, I understand that, the training that those guys do to get to even, medium levels is so impressive, and I have nothing but respect for it. And so anytime I can kind of test myself and see where I match up, I'm always up for a good challenge.
Yeah, it's a great way. I have NFL friends that train in the off season in MMA. They're not training to learn to fight, even though that's part of the process. They're training for the conditioning.
Sure.
And they like it because there's stretching and there's cardio, and they feel like it's good. And one of them is an offensive lineman that does it, and I think it's helped him a lot with his hand-eye coordination, his balance, agility, and things of that nature. So right. I think it makes sense to me.
It's great, and there's really, there is crossover too, technique-wise. Certain things for strikes or submission holds that you can use, and then you can kind of tweak to make it more pro wrestling friendly, and just kind of widen your range and your game that way too. So I think there's a lot of benefits to training that.
We'll try to bang a few of these questions out here. Kyle Miller, Austin, wants to know if you have a favorite match that you still remember when you were a fan. So obviously before you got into wrestling, was there a match that you still think about at some point, either historically or technically it was great, or for whatever reason?
Okay, well, this is a funny one, but I remember when the Mulkeys lucked their way into their big first victory to qualify for the Jim Crockett Tag Team Cup. I just watched that again on the network not that long ago, and in the background of the Mulkeys, I remember that moment as a kid, being so excited for him. Also, the match not so much, but the post-match Terry Funk Ric Flair confrontation where he puts him through the table. It's one that always kind of sticked out, and I remember, again, talk about a couple of legends right there and just how to do it right. But I remember just really, nowadays in wrestling it's hard to be surprised, but I didn't see it coming. I didn't see Terry turning on him and putting him through the table. And but yeah, I guess those are a couple of moments or whatever that just kind of stick out in my mind. You can go through the Steamboat and Savage Classic, obviously, and things like that. But I think some of my earlier memories were from even before then.
I'm told now, I don't know if this is true, that Flair Funk stuff is much better with whoever the announcer was, as opposed to having on Moot.
I would concur with that one, absolutely.
So I'm breaking my arm, patting myself on the back right now.
Real quick.
Yeah, let's see here, real quick. Are you healthy right now, Austin? You feel good?
Yeah, I feel good for 16 years, and the miles I've put on my body. I still feel them in my 20s, and hopefully my body agrees.
Good. Oh, that's good. This guy wanted to know. He's got one of the most unique Twitter names, Shinsuke Blockamora. He want to know, what would you say to Dana White if you met him? Did you have an issue with Dana White?
No, I think I was one of the guys who maybe came out and took exception to his, the old fake word, the implications that wrestling's fake, and I was maybe one of the guys who chimed in. I had no problem with Dana White whatsoever. I'd probably say hi, Dana White, Austin Aries, nice to meet you. You've done amazing things with mixed martial arts. No, I have no personal issue with them. And I think the fake word. I mean, I guess some people are a little more sensitive to it than others. I just don't think it's a word that's applicable to what we
Correct.
do. I think it's and again, for me, it's silly to compare mixed martial arts to professional wrestling. It's not even the same food group. It's not apples and oranges. It's completely different food groups.
Right.
We're an entertainment art form. They're a combat sport. That's why I think it's still silly that we're governed, in a lot of states by the same athletic commission. We're closer to Sesame Street on ice in some regards than we are to boxing or mixed martial arts. But we know the reason behind that. But I think fake is it's kind of an ignorant term for, and I think people do use it as a slight to what we do. I've always contended that professional wrestling is the most real form of performance art there is. It's more real than any movie or action scene you see on the big screen. One take, no stunt doubles, no do-overs. So I mean, I don't know. It's just the word fake does bother me because it's not applicable to professional wrestling.
No, it's not a good term. So people have to come up with a better word than that because it just doesn't work. Your old stomping grounds. What do you see for the future of Ring of Honor? Are you excited about their future? Are you concerned about their future? Where do you stand on where Ring of Honor is headed in the future?
I'll preface it by saying I haven't followed the product closely enough to give a real educated assessment. What I will say is I think that it will continue to be a place where guys are able to compete with other guys at higher levels than maybe they have been locally or on the indies to help raise their prestige, their profile, to then hopefully use that as a springboard to then continue up the ladder, whether that's with WWE or other companies. I do think, and this is just my opinion, and this is someone who's worked that style and has now worked many different styles, it's one of the hardest dollars to earn in wrestling from a physical standpoint. There's a lot of bumps I wish I had back from my Ring of Honor days, but that's all part of the learning process and that we all have to go through. I just think that physically, wrestling's supposed to be getting the most out of the least. And I think that they get a lot out of Ring of Honor, but they're putting a whole lot more in sometimes to get that. And and I just say that from a standpoint of a lot of these guys are my friends, my colleagues, guys I've competed with, and you want to see everybody stay healthy and make money in the long run. And I think sometimes that style can kind of cut career short. So, we all got to work smarter, not harder. And I think Ring of Honor is an example of where that could be applied.
This a pivotal year in your view for TNA? Is this a challenging year? Because, it seems like the payroll issues will subside and everything will be cool. Then all of a sudden you hear it's not. So whether it is or it isn't, do you think that because of the hand that they've been dealt or they've dealt themselves, whatever the case may be, is this a crucial year for TNA in your view?
I think it's a year of change. I think, if anything, I don't know how crucial it's going to be. I don't know that TNA is going to go anywhere until Dixie decides that, she no longer wants to be a part of it. But I think that what you're seeing is, and it started really with AJ and then Joe and myself, and now with Bobby and Eric, a lot of the pillars of that place, throw Kurt Angle in there, Sting. I mean, a lot of the people that really were the pillars of that promotion have moved on. Gives them an opportunity to start creating new stars, to bring new guys in, reallocate their payroll and their funds to help the company from a business standpoint. There's so much potential there. There's a lot of talent there. It's just a matter of if they can put it all together and get out of their own way sometimes. I think that we can all be guilty of that at times in our respective careers. Sometimes we're our own worst enemy, and for that place, obviously you want to see it succeed. The more places for guys and girls to make money in this business, the better off we all are. So, hopefully it's a critical year from the standpoint of them kind of reinventing themselves and finding out what makes them unique, and then sticking with that and building off it. Was deciding to leave TNA and come to NXT a tough decision for you?
Was it long? Did you have to think about it for a good while, or did it come to you quickly?
I think I knew before my contract was up that I wanted to take a break from there and see what other opportunities were there for me. I felt like I accomplished pretty much everything I wanted to there. I knew the situation the company was in, and I felt that at the time it would be in my best interest to explore my other options, knowing what was there for me if that's where I decided I wanted to return. So it wasn't too difficult of a decision. It just made sense at the time. And the cool thing is I left there in a way that the door's always open for me to come back at some point if that were to make sense. Yes. And I tried to leave there in a professional way. It was all amicable. Everyone understood the situation, and I wish them nothing but success.
No, don't burn bridges. That's in this world, in any field really. But burning bridges doesn't make sense. Bottom line, if you can avoid it, and if it's out of defiance or ignorance, it's kind of unexcusable. What do you follow New Japan any?
I catch on Access here and there, try to keep up. I haven't seen any of the new episodes with your commentary, but I look forward to seeing that. I enjoy the product. I think Josh Barnett adds a different, incredible voice.
Yeah.
And I think you guys together would be a really great combination. So I look forward to catching some of the newer stuff. But I try to watch it here and there. I have it recorded on a DVR, and I'll flip on an episode when I'm home just to kind of see what's going on. And it's a different style of wrestling, and I appreciate and enjoy all the different styles. So I still a fan of wrestling, so I still try to watch it when I can.
That's me. I'm the same way. I'm having a blast doing the matches with Josh. I'd love to see you work with Nakamura, and of course you got those Bullet Club guys, Gallows and Anderson, infiltrating. So that's all good, man. It's the match quality that group that's being assembled there should have could be as good as anybody in the country, anywhere in the world. Night in, night out, the match quality should be on a par with anything we've seen in years, in my view.
I agree 100%. I think there's a real window of opportunity now in the next, however many years to really do something special. Like you said, there's a collection of talent there now, both homegrown and then guys who've kind of plied their trade all over the world. And, to integrate that, I think there could really be some great stuff ahead.
And the other thing that people don't look at, Austin, is the fact that guys like you that can interface with real green kids, and you can teach them, you got to be at work on time, kid. You got to keep your gear clean. You got to pay attention. You can't be stupid. Don't spend all your money. Be sure and pay your quarterlies. All these little things that, if they heard it from an administrator like me, they might, JR's just blowing gas again, Then you get with your buddy, and you guys go to Chipotle to get you some tofu, and you're telling us the same story.
And that's because a lot of times we've made the mistake already. Learn from the mistakes that I made, and that's the one thing I always try to stress to guys. I'm not telling you because I know better. I'm telling you because I had to learn, and I'd rather you learn from my mistakes than by doing it yourself. And, I wish that I maybe had more guys, as I was kind of coming up in the business, that were willing to take me under the wing. A lot of times we had the veterans in the local area who would kind of sit in the corner and bitch about all the young guys going out there and doing all the high spots instead of, maybe bringing us over and explaining us to, why. And so, when I get the opportunity to help guys who have passion for the business, who respect the business, and who genuinely want to learn, I want to do everything I can to help that guy get better and not make some of the mistakes that I've made.
I hope you never lose that attitude, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us here. It's good talking with you. I look forward to seeing you somewhere down the road. I'm sure that we will. But stay healthy, Austin, and hope you have great success in WWE. And, hey, kid, save your money and pay your taxes, right?
I appreciate it, Jim. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
My pleasure.
All right, sports fans, there's a new fantasy sport that I suggest that you try. Is 1 week fantasy golf at DraftKings.com. And if you use my promo code JIM, that's J-I-M, you can play for free. How's that? Play for free. Promo code JIM, J-I-M. That's that easy. Well, playing fantasy golf at DraftKings is very easy. Just pick 6 golfers before a tournament tees off, stay under the salary cap, and rack up points for streaks, per-hole performance, tournament finishes, and more. Outscore the competition, and you can win big. Only DraftKings bring the excitement of golf to this level. And if you use my promo code JIM, you can experience this excitement for free, absolutely free. Just think, every monster drive, every incredible putt brings you closer to victory. Millions of sports fans have already discovered DraftKings. Now it's your turn to get in on the action and play for free. Fantasy golf contests begin when tournament tees off. So hurry to DraftKings.com now to choose your golfers. And don't forget to use my promo code JIM, J-I-M, to play for free. That's my promo code JIM to play for free at DraftKings.com. This isn't fantasy as usual. This is DraftKings. Enjoyed our conversation with Austin Aries. I know he's going to do good wherever he is. He's a pro. And, you know, the thing about Austin, he reminds me of Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and others under the 6 feet mark, considerably under the 6 feet mark, that have really made great accountings of themselves because they wrestle big. There's a difference in wrestling big, being smaller, and wrestling big. And Austin Aries wrestles big. So coming next week here on the Ross Report, I'm going to be talking to Joe Koff. Joe is the Chief Operations Officer, the COO of Ring of Honor Wrestling. And Joe's going to be on the podcast next week for the first time. I look forward to that. And we have taken a lot of your Twitter questions on that topic. So you'll be hearing your question hopefully answered or asked and answered on our program. So Joe's very willing to talk about all things Ring of Honor. So and he's got a great brand, and they've done an amazing job in the last several months, especially in my view. And they keep growing, and they're doing some cool things. So we'll talk to Joe next week and see how things are rocking in the world of Ring of Honor as they get ready for a big pay-per-view in Chicago in May. And that's going to be available on the Fight app, F-I-T-E app. So that's cool. Glad that we're doing business with Ring of Honor. Again, thank you guys for joining us here on the Ross Report. Sponsor support has been excellent. Thank you for that as well. Harrys.com. You know, you can use my promo code Ross Report. You'll get $5 off your first purchase at Harrys.com. The best shave of my life. Swear to goodness. Bukes.com. If you use my promo code there, Ross, R-O-S-S, you'll get 20% off your bouquet. That's good savings. And remember, delivery is free. That's good. Bukes.com, B-O-U-Q-S.com. DDP Yoga, our friend Diamond Dallas Page, doing great things for people, helping a lot of folks with DDP Yoga and the DDP Yoga Now app. I highly recommend that you check out. TrueCar, thank you. And at DraftKings.com, where if you use my promo code Jim, you play for free. How in the hell can you beat that? Jim equals free. So, and I certainly want to say thanks to everybody at Amazon, Amazon.com. They've been with us now for 114 shows, and from day one. And so all of my Amazon links are at podcast1.com, as you know. Just click on at podcast1.com, the Killer Deals button at the top of the page, and then Bionic Elbow Baby, the Ross Report button. I got links for Amazon UK, Amazon Canada, Amazon USA, and every time you buy something through these Amazon links, my Amazon link, my one and only embracing it Amazon link, caressing it, ensconcing it in my hug, Amazon kicks back a little bit of money to help us cover production costs. It's not going to cost you anything extra. There are no hidden fees. Watch my lips. No hidden fees or charges. You just do your regular shopping and you help us in the process. It is that easy. I'm going to buy. Don't forget, every Friday night, Josh Barnett and I will bring you some New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're getting great feedback on the show. It's on the Access Television Network, owned by my dear, close, longtime, hopefully longer personal friends, Mark Cuban. Friday nights at 9, 8 Central, Access TV. I know it's on the Dish Network, it's on DirecTV, and some cable systems. And I should know more about that. But Friday nights, Access TV, 9, 8 Central, Access TV. So, and we're coming on some really cool New Japan Pro Wrestling matches. We're in a cycle of matches that were taped earlier, but they're good ones. I haven't seen them. That's a good thing about it. I've obviously seen them for the first time. So, but I'm told by those that have seen them that they're dandies, and we like to call it dandy. Hey, we're looking forward to helping out here in the state of Oklahoma with a unique event, Oklahomania, a pro wrestling event. And they're talking about a fan fest and all kinds of neat things. On Sunday, July 17th in Oklahoma City, I don't know a lot more about it at this moment, but I will know more about it, and we'll keep you informed. It's one of those summertime things. You know, if you're vacationing or got a weekend off or something, might be worth your trip, I think, and it's pretty centrally located in Oklahoma City. So, anyway, that's Sunday, July 17th. More info coming on Oklahomania. Our YouTube page growing. Thank you. jrsvideos.com. That's free as well. We have talked to you about the Fight TV app, our little venture that we have invested our time and efforts in and monies, and it's really exciting times we're in with that app. Over 15 million and counting have downloaded it for free. Pretty cool. Very, very happy about that number. We want to get it up, obviously, but so, you know, it's a free app, so there's a lot of free content on it. All you got to do is have a smart device, smartphone, smart, tablet, smart TV, whatever, and Wi-Fi, and you're in. So check it out. FITE, Fight TV app. Thanks to Ingles Markets for carrying JR's products, barbecue sausage, ketchup, and mustard. Ingles, INGLES, southeastern part of the United States of America, and hopefully get more stores soon. Not easy. And but thank you guys so much for supporting all the things we do. I don't want to get on here and sound like a telethon. We have a lot of projects we're interested in, a lot of cool things are happening in the boxing world. I always say pumped up about Friday nights on Access, as you know, but the boxing stuff's going to add some new wrinkles, new elements to my career and what's going on. So I'm excited about the opportunity to get better at something, because if you don't get better, you're getting worse. So and they know that comfort zone don't work for my fat ass. I don't like it. Scares me. Scares me, baby. So next week, again, Joe Koff, the COO of Ring of Honor. And that'll be a fun conversation. They got exciting things coming with their brand. They're going to experience growth issues like everybody else. How are they going to be dealt with, and where does Joe think this brand can grow, and what it needs to do to be more successful, and what he sees for it in the future? Well, realistically, can you do in the future better and get better results? Is a national cable company, or in the national cable show outlet clearance in the making? What about TV in the UK? When's Ring of Honor going to be in the UK more prominently? And international growth, is that coming? So a lot of things. So it should be a good conversation. So again, thanks for being with us, and I appreciate you guys very much. Don't forget that do something nice for somebody, because that's just the nicest thing in the world, right? You open a door, say thank you, things of that nature. Just do something nice for somebody that's not expecting it, like maybe your spouse. And remember that tomorrow, our tomorrows, yours, mine, everybody's, are not guaranteed. So make the most of today. No one can define you. Only you can define you. So have a good week. Remember, every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, a new Ross Report will drop. If you subscribe for free on iTunes, you won't have to worry about that. From the rolling hills of Oklahoma, I'm good old JR Jim Ross saying good night and so long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to The Ross Report. Download a brand new episode every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Now, here are the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One.
When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update, I'm Rita Foley. Likely Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump meets with House Speaker Paul Ryan this week. Ryan, the top Republican in Congress, isn't supporting Trump at the moment. What will Donald Trump say to him when they meet on Thursday?
I'm going to say, look, this is what the people want. I just don't understand why he didn't. You know, most people have come out in favor. We've gotten tremendous endorsements over the last short period of time.
But one critic, Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, says Trump is going to have to change his hardline stand on some of the issues if he's going to win in November.
We are well behind in the polls right now, and in order to win this election, if Republicans want to win, and we do, then we've got to change the approach.
He was on Meet the Press, and Donald Trump was on ABC's This Week. Trump advisor Paul Manafort says Trump is now the head of the party, and so his agenda is the people's agenda, he says. AP Update, I'm Rita Foley.